Jiwon Kim sat cross-legged on her dorm room floor, slurping noodles from a steaming cup. Her roommate Kixra watched from across the room, her crystalline body flickering with colors that meant distress. "You are consuming poison again," Kixra said, her translator making her voice sound musical but concerned. Jiwon looked up, confused. "It's just ramen. Want some?" "That substance registers as chemical warfare on my scanner. The capsaicin levels alone could kill most species on this station." Jiwon shrugged and took another bite. "It's barely spicy, though. I should have added more pepper flakes." Kixra made a sound like wind chimes falling downstairs. She had been living with Jiwon for 3 months now at Galactic Academy Station Harmony, and every day brought new horror. The human drank something called coffee that was technically a mild poison. She stayed awake for days during exams. She exercised voluntarily, pushing her body until it leaked salt water, then smiled about it. "How are you still alive?" Kixra asked, not for the first time. "I'm fine. Actually, I'm pretty tired. Only got 4 hours of sleep last night. Only 4 hours." Kixra's entire body turned bright red. "The medical database says humans need 8 hours minimum or they begin to die." "Yeah, I'll crash this weekend." "Sleep like 12 hours straight." Jiwon yawned and stretched. "Anyway, want to study for Professor Villeneuve's xenobiology exam?" Before Kixra could answer, their door chimed. Jiwon stood up and pushed it open. The door, designed to resist significant force and labeled as reinforced, swung open so hard it banged against the wall. Taeyeon Park stood in the doorway, another human student carrying a box of snacks. "Hey, Jiwon, brought supplies for the study group." "Nice." "Come in." Taeyeon set the box down and Kixra peered inside. Chocolate, chips, energy drinks, and something called ghost pepper jerky. Every item would require a hazmat team for most species. "Do all humans eat like this?" Kixra asked weakly. "Eat like what?" Taeyeon asked, pulling out the jerky and taking a bite. 3 more students arrived for the study session. Velmuth, a gentle 6-limbed Aranthi who moved slowly and carefully. Crix, a floating gas-based Netherian who communicated through color changes. And Byung-ho Choi, another human who immediately grabbed an energy drink and cracked it open. "Okay," Jiwon said, pulling out her tablet. "Let's review. Chapter 7 is about adaptation to hostile environments." For the next hour they studied together. But Kixra noticed something odd. Whenever the material discussed extreme survival conditions, the humans looked confused. "I don't get this part," Byung-ho said, pointing at his screen. "It says most species need supplemental oxygen on planets with less than 30% atmospheric oxygen. Why?" "Because they will suffocate otherwise," Velmuth explained slowly, as if talking to a child. "But Earth has only 21% oxygen," Jiwon said. "How do we breathe?" The room went silent. "Your planet has 21%? Crix's gaseous form turned a shocked purple color. "Yeah, is that weird?" Professor Villeneuve's exam the next day went strangely. The questions seemed easy to the human students and impossible to everyone else. One question asked, "What is the maximum gravity a species can adapt to?" Jiwon wrote, 1G is normal, maybe up to 2G for short periods, and got marked wrong. The correct answer was 0.6G. Another question, "What temperature range can biological life survive in?" Taeyeon answered, "Humans live everywhere from -40 to +50 Celsius comfortably," and also got marked wrong. Apparently, the correct answer was a range of only 20 degrees after class. Professor Villeneuve, a tall reptilian Korthian, asked the human students to stay behind. "I need to ask you something," he said, his voice serious. "What classification is Earth?" The database lists it as restricted information. It's just a planet," Jiwon said. "Pretty normal. Blue skies, oceans, mountains. Nice place. What is the gravity?" 1G, that's why we use it as the standard, right?" Professor Villeneuve's scales rippled. "And the atmosphere?" "Nitrogen and oxygen mostly. Some carbon dioxide." "Normal stuff? And the wildlife?" "Oh, we have lots. Bears, tigers, sharks, wolves, snakes." My family has a dog as a pet. You keep predators as companions? The professor's voice cracked slightly. Well, yeah. Dogs are great. Very friendly. Professor Villaneth sat down heavily. Do you know what a death world is? The three humans shook their heads. It is a planet so hostile that it actively tries to kill everything on it. Extreme gravity, dangerous atmosphere, toxic plants, aggressive predators everywhere. Only myths speak of intelligent species evolving on such worlds. We call them persisters in the old stories. Species that refuse to die no matter what. Okay, Byung-ho said slowly. But what does that have to do with us? The professor looked at them for a long moment. I believe Earth might be a death world, and you might be the persisters from the myths. Yuan laughed. That's ridiculous. We're completely normal. Earth is normal. There's nothing special about us. But Professor Villaneth wasn't laughing. That evening he filed a report with the Galactic Council. Flagged as urgent priority. Back in the dorm, Jawan finished another cup of poison noodles while Kixra watched. The human yawned, mentioned she would probably sleep only 5 hours tonight. Then did 50 push-ups before bed just because she felt like it. Kixra pulled up the galactic database and searched for Death World and persisters. What she found made her crystalline. Structure freeze and terror. The myths described? Impossible beings. Creatures who healed from terrible wounds. Who hunted prey by chasing them until the prey died of exhaustion. Who thrived on planets that killed everything else. Who smiled in the face of danger and called it fun. She looked at Jiwon, now sleeping peacefully after consuming poison, surviving on minimal sleep and exercising for no reason. Oh no, Kixra whispered. The myths are real, and I've been living with one. Across the station, similar realizations were dawning on other students who lived with humans. The weird eating habits, the impossible endurance, the casual strength, the high pain tolerance. It all suddenly made terrible sense. Humanity had arrived at the galactic stage, and nobody had realized they were living among legends. The field trip was supposed to be educational and safe. 20 students and Professor Villaneth boarded a small shuttle heading to Kelvin 7. A jungle planet classified as moderate difficulty for study purposes. Yuan sat next to Kixra, who had been acting strange all week. The crystalline being kept her distance and watched Jiwan with what might have been fear. You okay? Jiwan asked. Yes, fine, completely fine. Kixra said too quickly. The shuttle descended through Kelvin 7's atmosphere smoothly. Then alarms started blaring. Engine failure, the pilot shouted. Brace for impact. The world spun. Metal screamed. Then everything went dark. G1 woke up with her head pounding. The shuttle had crashed in a clearing, split open like a broken egg. Around her, students were groaning and crying out in pain. She stood up, ignoring the dizziness, and started checking on others. Velmoth was trapped under a piece of the hull, whimpering in pain. Taeyun! Byung-ho! Jiwan called out. I need help here. The two human boys stumbled over. Byung-ho looked at the heavy metal piece, gripped it with both hands, and lifted. His arm shook with effort, but the metal rose. Taeyun pulled Velmoth free. Around them, the conscious alien students stared in shock. That piece of hull weighed at least 200 kilograms. Is everyone alive? Professor Villaneth asked, limping toward them. He had a gash on his arm that was bleeding purple blood. G1 did a head count. All 20 students and the professor had survived, but the pilot was dead. Many students were injured. Their communicator was smashed. Where are we? Crix asked, his gaseous form flickering weakly. Professor Villaneth checked his handheld scanner. Approximately 60 kilometers from the research station. The gravity here is 0.7 G. That's pretty light, Taeyun said, bouncing slightly on his feet. Light? Velmoth gasped. This is crushing me. Yuan realized the alien students were struggling. They moved slowly, breathing heavily, like humans trying to walk on Jupiter. Okay, she said, falling into the take-charge mode her parents had raised her with. We need to organize. First, medical attention for the injured. then shelter, water, and food. Rescue will come, but we need to survive until then. How long? Kixra asked. Professor Villeneuve looked grim. Our flight plan was logged. They will notice we are missing within hours. But reaching us in this terrain. 3 days minimum. 3 days. Juwan's mind raced. They had maybe 1 day of food and water in the emergency supplies. But Young-ho, help me pull out the survival kit, she said. Tae-yun, check what we can use from the shuttle. Everyone else, stay put and rest. Don't waste energy. The humans went to work while the aliens watched in amazement. Didn't they need to recover from the crash? Didn't they feel the heavy gravity and thin air? Jiwan found the first aid kit and started treating injuries. She cleaned Professor Villeneuve's wound efficiently, wrapped it tight, and moved to the next student. Her movements were quick and sure, like a battlefield medic. How do you know this? The professor asked. Basic first aid. Everyone learns it in school, right? No, most species never encounter physical trauma. Our worlds are safe. Jiwan paused, then continued working. Safe worlds. What a strange concept. By the time the sun started setting, they had a basic camp. The humans had built a shelter using shuttle parts. They had rationed the food and water. They had even started a fire, which made several aliens panic until Jiwan explained it was controlled. Then the temperature dropped. Kelvin 7's night cycle brought freezing cold. The alien students huddled together, shivering despite their thermal blankets. The humans gave up their blankets to the aliens and sat by the fire in just their shirts. Aren't you cold? Kixra asked, her body dim with exhaustion. A bit chilly, Jawan admitted. But I've been camping in worse weather. This is like an autumn night back home. Autumn night, Kixra repeated. On your death world. Earth isn't a death world, Yuan said, frustrated. It's just a planet. A roar echoed through the jungle. Something large was moving out there in the darkness. The alien students panicked. Velmuth started crying. Crix's form became a terrified yellow color. Juwan stood up, grabbed a burning branch from the fire, and walked toward the sound. What are you doing? Professor Villeneuve hissed. Scaring it off, Juwan said calmly. She reached the edge of their camp and saw eyes reflecting in the darkness. Something big, probably a predator. She raised the torch high and shouted at the top of her lungs. Get out of here! Go on, get! She picked up rocks and threw them. One hit the creature with a solid thunk. The roaring stopped. Then came the sound of something large running away. Jiwan walked back to the fire and sat down. Should be fine now. Animals usually don't mess with fire and loud noises. The alien stared at her like she had just fought off a demon with her bare hands. You are insane, Kixra whispered. Completely insane. You walked toward a predator. You shouted at it. You threw rocks at it. Well, yeah. It was threatening us. You are prey behavior. You run from predators, you hide. You don't challenge them. Jiwan blinked. Wait, you're prey species? Most intelligent species evolved as prey, Professor Villeneuve said quietly. Predators rarely develop advanced intelligence. They don't need to. They have claws and teeth. But humans don't have claws or teeth, Jiwan said. No, the professor agreed. You have something worse. You have persistence, endurance, the ability to never give up. You are apex predators who hunted prey by simply refusing to stop chasing them until they died of exhaustion. The night stretched on. The humans took turns keeping watch while the aliens slept fitfully. Jiwan sat by the fire, thinking about what the professor had said. Apex predators. Death world, persisters. She looked at her hands. Normal hands. She thought about her normal life. School, family, friends. Nothing special, but maybe normal was relative. When dawn came, they had survived the first night. Only 2 more days until rescue. G1 stood up, stretched, and smiled. Okay, everyone, let's find some water. I saw what might be a stream about 1/2 kilometer that way. 1/2 kilometer? Velmuth gasped. In this gravity? Impossible. Jiwan and the other humans looked at each other and shrugged. Then they helped the struggling aliens to their feet and started walking. Impossible, Jiwan thought, was just a matter of perspective. Day 2 on Kelvin 7 started with Minji Han finding food. The fourth human student had been quiet during the crash, but now she returned to camp carrying armfuls of local plants and fungi. Found some edible stuff, she announced cheerfully. Professor Villaneth scanned the plants and his scales went pale. These are toxic. The purple ones especially. They contain nerve agents. Really? They taste kind of like mushrooms. A bit bitter, but not bad. Minji took another bite to demonstrate. How are you not dying? The professor's voice cracked. I don't know. They're just plants? Kixra had stopped being surprised. She had moved past surprise into a state of numb acceptance. Humans were impossible. That was just a fact now. The human students had taken over running the camp completely. They built better shelters, found water, identified edible food, and kept watch through the freezing nights. They did all this while the alien students could barely move in the heavy gravity and thin air that afternoon. While the aliens rested, Professor Villaneth gathered the human students around the fire. I need to tell you a story, he said. An old story, a myth from before the Galactic Council existed. The humans sat down, interested. Thousands of years ago, the professor began, the first galactic explorers found a world. A terrible world. It had crushing gravity, violent weather, dangerous predators everywhere, and plants that evolved chemical weapons. The air itself was toxic, filled with a highly reactive gas that caused fires. Oxygen, Jawan said softly. Yes, the explorers found primitive intelligent beings there. They watched these beings from orbit, horrified and fascinated. The beings hunted by chasing animals for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They consumed poison for enjoyment. They fought each other constantly, but then helped each other survive. They bonded with predators and kept them as companions. That sounds like humans, Taeyun said. Professor Villaneth nodded. The explorers called them persisters. They left that world alone, marked it as quarantined, and fled. The story became a myth, a scary tale about impossible beings from a world that wanted to kill everything. Most historians dismissed it as fiction, but some of us wondered. You think Earth is that world, Byung-ho said. I know it is. Your planet matches every single description. The gravity, the atmosphere, the wildlife, everything. And you match the descriptions of persisters perfectly. Yuan felt strange. But we're not special. We're just people. That is what makes you terrifying, the professor said quietly. You do impossible things and think they are normal. You survive conditions that would kill most species and call it camping. You are apex predators who evolved on a death world, and you don't even realize how dangerous you are. A crack of thunder interrupted them. Dark clouds had rolled in fast, and suddenly rain began falling. Not gentle rain, but a violent downpour with wind that tore at their shelter. The alien students huddled together in fear. Velmuth was crying again. Crix could barely maintain his form in the wind. I need to secure the shelter. Jiwan shouted over the storm. The supports are coming loose. You cannot go out there. Professor Villaneth grabbed her arm. You will die. Jiwan pulled free gently. I'll be fine. It's just rain. She ran out into the storm. The wind was strong and the rain felt like needles, but she had been in worse storms back home. Typhoons made this look gentle. She found the support poles being pulled up by the wind. Using rope from the survival kit, she tied them down properly, leaning her weight against the wind. It took 10 minutes of hard work, but she got everything secured when she came back into the shelter, soaked and smiling. The aliens were staring at her with expressions she couldn't read. That was kind of fun, actually, she said, wringing out her hair. Refreshing. Fun? Kixra repeated. You think storms are fun, don't you? The power of nature, the challenge of standing against it. It makes you feel alive. No, Professor Villaneth said. We feel terror. We feel like we are about to die. We do not smile in storms. Jiwon looked at Taeyun, Byung-ho, and Minji. They all shrugged. Yeah, storms were kind of fun. Oh, Jiwon said, understanding dawning. We really are different, aren't we? Yes, the professor said. You are persisters. The myths are real, and the galaxy has no idea what is coming. That night, the storm continued. The humans took turns keeping watch, standing in the rain like it was nothing. They sang songs to keep their spirits up, traditional Korean songs that sounded beautiful and sad. The alien students listened and felt something they had never felt before. These humans were terrifying, yes. Impossible, yes. But they were also kind. They had given up their blankets, shared their food, protected everyone from danger. I'm glad you are on our side, Kixra said to Jawan quietly. We're friends, Jawan said simply. That's what friends do. On your world, perhaps. On most worlds, individuals survive first. The group second. That sounds lonely. It is safe. Safety isn't everything, Jawan said. Sometimes you have to take risks for the people you care about. Kixra's crystalline body pulsed with colors she had no name for. This human had walked into a storm to protect them, had scared off predators to keep them safe, had shared scarce resources without hesitation. The myth said persisters were dangerous. They forgot to mention they could also be heroes. On the third day, rescue finally arrived. A large shuttle landed in the clearing, and medical teams rushed out. The rescuers expected to find desperate survivors, maybe casualties. Instead, they found an organized camp with shelters, a fire, food stores, and everyone alive. How did you survive? The rescue team leader asked in shock. Professor Villeneuve looked at the human students, who were helping pack up the camp efficiently. We had persisters with us, he said. The myths are real, and we are not ready for what that means. As they flew back to the station, Jiwan looked out the window at Kelvin 7 below. A death world by galactic standards, but it had seemed almost gentle compared to Earth's harsh mountains and deep oceans. She wondered what would happen when the galaxy learned the truth about humanity. Would they be afraid? Would they hate them? She hoped not. She hoped they could see past the myths to the truth. Humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also capable of great kindness. The shuttle left the planet behind, carrying its passengers toward an uncertain future. The story of Kelvin 7 spread across the galactic network like fire. Students who had been on the trip were interviewed constantly. Videos of humans casually doing impossible things went viral. Within days, everyone knew about Earth and its people. The reaction was mixed and intense. Giwan found herself at the center of a storm of attention. News crews wanted interviews. Scientists wanted to study her. Some students avoided her in the hallways, fear in their eyes. Others treated her like a celebrity or a weapon. She hated all of it. I just want to go to class, she complained to Kixra one evening. I'm not a myth or a monster. I'm just a student. You saved our lives, Kixra said. That makes you a hero, whether you like it or not. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Earth's ambassador, Doyen Lee, was summoned to answer questions. The session was broadcast across all member worlds. G1 and her human friends watched it on the dorm room screen along with dozens of alien students packed into the common area. Ambassador Lee stood before the council. A middle-aged human man in a formal suit, looking calm and professional. Ambassador Lee, the council chair began. A floating sphere covered in sensory tentacles. Why did Earth not inform the Galactic Council of humanity's dangerous nature? Dangerous nature? Ambassador Lee looked genuinely confused. Could you be more specific? Your species can survive in extreme gravity. You consume toxic substances regularly. You hunt predators. You thrive on a death world classified as one of the most hostile planets we have ever documented. Oh, the ambassador said. Well, we didn't know any of that was unusual. We thought everyone was like us. The council chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of species talking at once, their translators creating a cacophony. You didn't KNO? The chair said. How could you not know? We had no comparison, Ambassador Lee explained patiently. Earth is the only world we knew. When we developed space travel and met you, we assumed you were similar to us. Just different shapes and cultures. Your planet kills most visitors within hours. Does it? We put up warning signs about the gravity and atmosphere? We thought we were being careful. A counselor from the reptilian Vrex species stood up. Ambassador, do you know what humans do for entertainment? Many things. Sports, art, music, jumping out of aircraft with cloth to slow their fall, climbing mountains where the air is too thin to breathe, swimming with creatures that can kill them, running until their bodies break down, then doing it again for fun. Ambassador Lee smiled slightly. Yes, those are popular activities. Wha? Because they are challenging. Because they make us feel alive. Because pushing our limits is how we grow. The council chamber fell silent. Finally, a counselor from the insectoid trell species spoke. Do you understand what you are? You are apex predators from the hell world. You are the persisters from our nightmares. You are the reason our ancestors fled certain planets and never returned. We are just people, Ambassador Lee said firmly. Yes, Earth shaped us to be tough. Yes, we are physically strong compared to most species. But we are not monsters. We are builders, artists, parents, friends. We laugh, we cry, we hope, we dream. We are not the scary myths from your stories. Then what are you? The chair asked. We are what happens when life refuses to give up. When a planet tries to kill you for 4 billion years, you learn to be stubborn. You learn to adapt. You learn that the only way to survive is to never stop trying. He paused. We are survivors. And we want to share the stars with you, not conquer them. Back in the dorm, the alien students looked at their human classmates with new understanding. Is that true? Velmuth asked Taeyun. You just want to be friends? Of course, Taeyun said. Why would we come all the way to space school if we just wanted to fight? We came to learn. To meet new people. To explore. But you could conquer us easily, Crick said, his gaseous form a worried orange. Could we? Maybe, Byung-ho said. But why would we? That sounds terrible. War is awful. We know. We fought each other for thousands of years on Earth. We learned that cooperation is better than conflict. Minji nodded. Besides, you have technology we don't have. Knowledge we need. Different perspectives. We are stronger together. The broadcast continued. The council debated for hours. Some species wanted to restrict human expansion. Others wanted to recruit humans for dangerous jobs in security and exploration. A few wanted to weaponize human genetics. Ambassador Lee listened patiently, then spoke again. I understand your fear. I understand your concerns. Humans are different from most galactic species. But we are not unique in being dangerous. Every species here has survival adaptations. Every species has a history of violence and growth. We are simply more obvious about it. What do you propose? The chair asked. Integration, slowly, with clear guidelines. Let humans serve on mixed crews. Let us prove that we can be trusted. Let our actions speak louder than ancient myths. The council voted. After hours of debate, they agreed. Humanity would be accepted as a full member of the Galactic Council, with special guidelines for Deathworlder integration. Humans would be required to undergo sensitivity training. They would need to be careful around other species. They would be monitored, at least at first, but they would be welcomed. The dorm room erupted in cheers. Human and alien students hugged each other, celebrating the decision. Then the alarm klaxons started blaring. Emergency broadcast, the screen announced. Distress signal received from mining colony Theta 9. Pirate attack in progress. All military vessels are days away. The colony has approximately 4 hours before defenses fail. The room went quiet. Ji-won looked at Taeyun, Byung-ho, and Minji. They looked back at her. No words were needed. We have to help, Ji-won said. You are students, Kixra protested. Not soldiers. That colony has families, children. We can't just let them die. You will die if you go. Yuan smiled grimly. Maybe, but we have to try. That's what persisters do. We never give up. She stood up and walked toward the door. Behind her, the other human students followed, and surprisingly, so did some of the alien students. If you are going, Kixra said, her crystalline body glowing with determination, you will need a crew, and someone to keep you from doing anything too crazy. Velmuth stood up on her 6 legs. I am a coward by nature. But you saved my life on Kelvin 7, I will help you save others. Crix pulsed a determined blue. Pirates are predators. They take from the weak. I hate them. Let us go stop them. Professor Villaneth appeared in the doorway, blocking their way. He looked at the group of students, human and alien, all determined to do something impossible. Then he stepped aside. The shuttle bay is on level 7, he said quietly. There's a small ship being fueled for a cargo run. I believe it is currently unguarded. A terrible security oversight. Yuan understood. Thank you, Professor. Don't thank me. I'm committing career suicide by letting you do this. He smiled sadly. But you are right. Someone must try. The myths say persisters are unstoppable. Let us see if myths can become heroes. They ran toward the shuttle bay. A small group of students about to attempt the impossible, just another day for humanity. The cargo ship was called the Steady Fortune, a small vessel designed for short runs between stations. It was never meant for combat or rescue operations. G. One sat in the pilot's seat, hands shaking slightly. She had basic flight training, but this was insane. Beside her, Taiyun worked the navigation console. 4 hours until the colony falls, he said. We can make it in 3 if we push the engines. Then we push them, Jawan said. Behind them, Byung-ho and Minji were checking the cargo bay. They had found some cutting tools, emergency supplies, and 1 small plasma torch. Not weapons, but they would have to do. Kixra, Velmuth, and Crix were in the passenger area, along with 6 other alien students who had volunteered. None of them were soldiers. All of them were terrified but determined. This is insane, Kixra said. We are students trying to fight pirates. Yes, Minji agreed cheerfully. Completely insane. That's why they won't expect it. The ship launched from the station. Within minutes, they received an angry transmission from Station Command ordering them to return. Jiwan ignored it. They received another transmission from Ambassador Lee himself. What do you think you're doing? He demanded. What we have to, Jiwan replied. People need help. We're going. There was a long pause. Then the ambassador sighed. The council is watching. Every species in the galaxy is watching. If you fail, it confirms their worst fears about humans. And if we succeed, then maybe they'll see what I see. Heroes, not monsters. Another pause. Good luck. Make us proud. The transmission cut off. 3 hours of flight time felt like an eternity. They used it to plan. The colony had sent detailed scans before their communications were damaged. 5 pirate ships, heavily armed. Approximately 50 raiders. We are outnumbered and outgunned, Velmuth said, stating the obvious. Yes, Byung-ho agreed. So we don't fight fair. We use surprise, speed, and the fact that they think we're just a cargo ship. They arrived at the colony to find chaos. The pirate ships were docked or hovering near the main habitat domes. Alarms were blaring. Fires burned in several sections. Life signs show most colonists have retreated to the central dome, Taiyun reported. Pirates are trying to cut through the doors. How long do the doors have? Jiwan asked. Maybe 30 minutes. Jiwan made a decision. Okay, here's what we do. Taiyun, you and Velmuth stay with the ship and provide distraction. Everyone else, we're going in. Going in where? Kixra asked. Outside. We're doing a spacewalk. The aliens looked horrified. Humans looked excited. 5 minutes later, Jiwan, Byung-ho, Minji, and 3 brave alien volunteers were floating in space, attached to the ship by safety lines. They wore emergency suits that were barely adequate for space exposure. This is madness, one alien student named Plix whispered over the cum. Probably, Jiwan agreed. Ready? The steady Fortune accelerated toward the nearest pirate ship, broadcasting a distress call. The pirates, thinking they had an easy target, focused on the approaching ship. They didn't notice the figures detaching and floating toward their hull. G1 reached the pirate ship first, magnetic boots locking onto the metal. Byung-ho and Minji followed. They found an external maintenance hatch and used the plasma torch to cut through the lock. Inside, they moved quickly through the ship. The pirates had left only a skeleton crew aboard, expecting no trouble. They were wrong. The first pirate they encountered was a large, armored Grex warrior. He saw Jiwan and laughed, raising his weapon. Jiwan didn't think. She moved on instinct, using the lower gravity to her advantage. She jumped, pushed off a wall, and kicked the pirate in the head with both feet. The impact sent him crashing into a console, unconscious. Humans, Byung-ho muttered, are really good at violence. They fought their way to the engine room. Minji, who had studied engineering, went to work on the systems. Within minutes, the pirate ship's engines began to overheat. That will force them to evacuate, she said. One ship down. They repeated the process 2 more times. 3 pirate ships disabled, their crews retreating in escape pods or abandoning the fight entirely, but the main pirate ship, the largest one, was still at the colony. Its captain had finally realized something was wrong. All raiders returned to the ship. A voice boomed over the pirate channels. We have intruders. The students regrouped on the steady Fortune. They were exhausted, bruised, and Jiwan had a cut on her arm that was bleeding. But they were winning. The colony doors have 15 minutes left, Taeyun reported. But the pirates are retreating to their ship. If they escape, they'll come back with reinforcements. Then we don't let them escape, Jiwan said. How? That ship is 10 times our size? It has actual weapons. Jiwan smiled. It was not a nice smile. Then we board it before it leaves. The next few minutes were a blur of action. The steady Fortune rammed the pirate ship's docking port, locking the 2 vessels together. The students poured into the pirate ship through the damaged airlock. Inside, they met fierce resistance. But the pirates had never fought humans before. They had never faced beings who simply refused to stop, who got back up when knocked down, who fought with improvised weapons and sheer determination. Byung-ho fought with a metal pipe, using his human strength to devastating effect. Minji dodged and weaved faster than the pirates expected. The alien students supported them. Using their own unique abilities, Kixra's crystalline body could focus light into blinding beams. Velmuth's 6 limbs allowed her to climb walls and attack from unexpected angles. Crix, the gas-based being, could slip through vents and sabotage systems from inside. The pirates began to panic. They were used to easy targets, frightened colonists. Not these determined students who fought like legends from ancient myths. Retreat. The pirate captain finally screamed. They're persisters. Abandoned ship. The pirates fled to escape pods, abandoning their ship entirely. Within minutes, the massive pirate vessel was empty except for the student crew. Jiwan stood on the bridge, breathing hard, bleeding from several wounds. Around her, the other students collapsed in exhaustion. Did we win? Velmuth asked weakly. We won, Jiwan confirmed. The colony's communication system crackled to life. Unknown vessel, this is Colony Theta 9. Are you? Did you just save us? This is the steady Fortune, Jiwan replied. We're students from Galactic Academy. Is everyone safe? Yes. Yes, we're safe. Who are you people? Jiwan looked at her friends, human and alien, all of them exhausted and injured but alive. We're just students, she said. Nothing special. The rescue ships arrived 4 hours later. They found a group of students who had somehow defeated an entire pirate fleet using one small cargo ship and sheer determination. News of the rescue spread even faster than the Kelvin 7 story. This time, the galaxy didn't see scary myths. They saw young people of multiple species working together to save lives. They saw heroes back at Galactic Academy. The students were greeted as celebrities. But this time it felt different. People weren't afraid. They were grateful. Ambassador Lee gave a press conference. "You asked what humans are," he said. "This is what we are. We're people who don't give up, who protect the weak, who turn impossible situations into victories. And we're better when we work together with others." The Galactic Council passed new legislation. The Deathworlder Integration Program was expanded to actively recruit humans for exploration, rescue, and defense operations. But always in mixed crews, always working with other species, Jiwan returned to her dorm room one evening to find it full of gifts and messages from across the galaxy. Thanks from the colonists they saved. Requests for interviews. Job offers from a dozen organizations. She ignored all of it and made herself a cup of instant noodles. Kixra watched her, no longer horrified by the poison food. "You could be famous, powerful. You saved hundreds of lives." "I just did what needed doing," Jiwan said. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Kixra said softly. "Most species would have given up, would have said it was impossible, would have waited for someone else to save the day. But you went anyway. That is what makes you special." Jiwan ate her noodles and thought about that. Maybe they were special. Maybe humans were different. But being different didn't have to mean being scary. "I'm glad we're friends," she said finally. "So am I," Kixra replied. "Even if you're a myth that came to life." Months later, Jiwan graduated from Galactic Academy with honors. She joined the first mixed-species exploration crew, serving alongside Kixra, Velmuth, and Crix. They explored dangerous worlds, rescued stranded ships, and pushed the boundaries of known space. They called their ship the Steady Fortune, in honor of where their journey really began, and wherever they went, the myths followed. Stories of humans who never gave up, who faced impossible odds and won, who were terrifying and kind in equal measure. But Jiwan knew the truth. They weren't myths. They were just people doing their best, and sometimes that was enough to change the galaxy.